Let's be real about this. LeBron James is the GM of the Lakers, and I would like to congratulate him on all the sensational moves he just made to restock his roster. Giving Melo one last run at a ring was really a sweet move. And Dwight Howard and Ellington and Ariza and Monk and Kendrick Nunn and re-signing THT on TNT. I love it all, except I disqualify every bit of it. Russell Westbrook is still your point guard, LeBron. He's still your primary decision maker. Kevin Durant said, I can't win with him. James Harden said, I can't win with him. LeBron, you will not be able to overcome Russell Westbrook. Just ask Melo.
Now 13, Talen Horton-Tucker re-signing on a 3-year, $32 million contract. The 20-year-old averaged 9 points last season and a 2-year deal with former Heat guard Kendrick Nunn. Woj reporting he turned down more money for a title run with the Lakers. And, of course, earlier as we reported, they added Carmelo Anthony, giving them 2 of the top 10 scorers in NBA history, but when you make that list, it means a lot of wear and tear and a lot of birthdays. According to Elias Sports Bureau, the Lakers have never rostered 4 35-year-old players at the same time. As it stands now, they have 5, and 8 over the age of 32 as well. Horton-Tucker and Nunn helping to bring down the average. Holy cow. NBA front office insider Bobby Marks joining us now. What stands out to how the Lakers are adding this type of depth here on a potential championship run in the offseason?
Yeah, I think it's 2 things. I think they check the boxes for regular season depth and also for playoff depth. And when you added the 8 players to what was already here with 5, players here with certainly with Russell and LeBron and AD here. Today was about the youth movement, right? Yesterday was about, players like Trevor Ariza, Dwight Howard, Wayne Ellington. Today was all about the youth movement. And I think when you're looking at players like, Kendrick Nunn is not on here, but players like Kendrick Nunn, who's on here, he's probably on the shooting guard. He's probably on the shooting guard list. Kendrick Nunn there. We had him projected at $11 million. As Woj just said, he turned down more money to come to the Lakers, signed for $5 million. Malik Monk, we had him projected at about $8 million. He comes to the Lakers for the veteran minimum exception. Wayne Ellington yesterday. My only concern is Nunn, Monk, and Ellington a combined 30 playoff games in their career. So a little bit of a lack of playoff experience there, but they've got some depth now. Now it's all about keeping the big 3 healthy.
Right now, the roster has 5 future Hall of Famers when you look at it, when you talk about Dwight Howard being added to Carmelo Anthony and this group right here at the top. Meanwhile, another big deal in the NBA today. DeMar DeRozan to the Bulls, sign and trade. Woj is reporting he'll sign a 3-year, $85 million contract. The Spurs will get the expiring contracts of Thaddeus Young and Al-Farouq Aminu, a first-round pick in 2 seconds. A lot is moving on in the East here. Sixers have not moved a lot. The Nets have just kind of quietly adjusted. But yesterday the conversation is the Heat making moves. How do they stack up against the Bucks and the Nets? Now, when you look at the moves the Bulls have made in the last 24 hours, how do they stack up to these teams in the East?
I'm not ready to put them up there with the big boys yet. I still think they're kind of that tier 2 team, maybe with a team like New York. Atlanta in that group there, probably in that 4 to 6 range here. It's interesting with DeRozan. We talked about him yesterday. Maybe he would go to Miami for the mid-level exception, $9.5 million. 3 years, $85 million, fully guaranteed. And what they were able to do, it's a sign and trade with San Antonio. Players like Al-Farouq Aminu, Thaddeus Young, that works. You send DeRozan back into there, and that's your roster there. Now there's work to be done. 8 players under contract. They've got 6 roster spots. The big question is, can they bring Lauri Markkanen back, who's a restricted free agent? But you've got to like a starting lineup with, certainly with Lonzo, not LaMelo, Lonzo, DeRozan, Zach LaVine. Remember we talked about renegotiation. Will it make Zach LaVine happy? I think it will, and certainly Nikola Vucevic. So they've done a really nice job over the last couple days here. But as I said, there's still some work to be done.
And let's not forget the Spurs are going to get a first-round pick and 2 second-round picks. But Vucevic was the shocker that we saw at the trade deadline. We thought the Bulls were sellers. It's a completely different attitude and mindset now that they brought in Vucevic, 41% from three. And the Bulls continue to remake their roster under Billy Donovan. According to Woj, they're finalizing a sign and trade to acquire DeMar DeRozan from the Spurs. The perennial 20-point scorer will join new Bulls, Lonzo Ball, and Alex.
Back their depth after the Russell Westbrook trade and Alex Caruso going to Chicago. But for Carmelo Anthony, finally joining up with LeBron James in the NBA. They've talked about this at several different junctures of their career, but it finally made sense. They talked here in recent weeks, and Carmelo, coming to a team, that needs a power forward off the bench, who needs, he's become one of the real formidable catch and shoot shooters in the NBA. And I think for Melo, both he and Trevor Ariza playing, some of that 4 spot now for the Lakers really add a lot there, and this is certainly going to be a very veteran bench for LA.
No doubt about it. By the way, Melo needs just 40 points to pass the great Moses Malone from 9th place.
The LA Lakers.
Ooh.
And we've been hearing about this for a while. These guys met when they were in high school. They played a huge game against each other when they were opponents. And there's a great piece that Howard Beck, our friend at Sports Illustrated, wrote talking about them sitting in a stairwell in a hallway at the hotel the night before the game and just becoming friends, basically. 2 guys who were in similar situations in high school who could know what that pressure was like to have the eyes of the whole country on them when they were so young. They have been incredibly close ever since. We have been waiting for the time when Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James play basketball together in the NBA. And we have it now. Carmelo Anthony is going to the LA Lakers. What do you make of that, Perk?
Reunited and it feels so good. I tried to tell people yesterday, Rachel, when producer Steve was saying we had to leave out, I couldn't have a chance to redeem myself when Zach Lowe and Ramona and Matt Barnes was disagreeing with me about the big 3 of the Lakers and the big 3 of the Nets and who was going to have the better impact. And all of a sudden, guess what? Like them old people used to tell me, my grandmother, boy, don't you touch that stove, it's hot. And then all of a sudden I had to learn on my own not to go touch the stove because I went and touched it anyway. All of a sudden you got to go get the aloe vera plants because you got a burn mark on your hand because I told y'all so. Look, what Rob Pelinka did yesterday, all he did, Rachel, was set the temperature. He set the temperature. He set the temperature by going sign Trevor Ariza, Kent Bazemore, Wayne Ellington, and all of those guys. And now all of a sudden he had the cake ready to bake and he went put it in the oven by sealing the deal and going to get Carmelo Anthony. The mission is complete along with Dwight Howard. Book it. The Lakers are on their track, back on track. You go ahead, Zach. Say what you got to say. Go ahead. Do what you do.
I think you lost Zach at aloe vera, but continue.
Look, I have no idea what just happened, except I'm kind of hungry now. But I don't know what all that was. Look, this is the
truth. The man was speaking the truth. Continue.
This is a great story, and if I recall correctly, Carmelo made the playoffs his rookie year, and LeBron did not. I believe LeBron went to one of his playoff games. I mean, that's to go support him. So it's a beautiful story. And look, this is the kind of flyer the Lakers were going to have to take. They did not have any cap resources left to go. They're going to have to get guys that are chasing rings on the minimum. And Carmelo, to his credit, everyone said, all he wants to do is ISO and shoot twos. In Portland, he bought into a role as a spot-up shooter, shot the 3 well. That's the role he's going to have to play for the Lakers. But with all of these guys, whether it's Ellington, Bazemore, Ariza, Carmelo, with the exception of Ariza, I think the big question is going to be when push comes to shove, when you're in the conference finals, when you're in the second round of the playoffs, whatever it is, can you stay on the floor defensively? Do the Lakers, who have made their bones, all the sexy stuff, whatever, they have made their bones on defense.
Yep.
Have they hurt their defense too much in this all of this roster building? I think that remains to be seen, but they are going to be a really interesting team.
Well, let me ask you a question. Woj also reporting Malik Monk to the Lakers. What do you think now as you look at the whole roster and where it sort of sits? That's
a great flyer for the Lakers. I haven't seen that. I haven't looked at my phone. Malik Monk had a nice bounce-back season last year. He can really shoot. He can play make as a secondary playmaker. That's when they lost Caruso, they needed more guys in their prime. And Malik Monk is still in his prime, and I think that's a great move by Rob Pelinka. It's a great flyer.
Perk, what about you?
Rachel, you see when I love the move getting Monk. I think he's a hell of an addition. But you see why Zach is still trying to find holes and talking about defensive prowess and the defensive identity. They still have Anthony Davis. They still have Dwight Howard. They still have LeBron James. Look, when you have a veteran group like this group is built for a 7-game series because you have a veteran group that's going to buckle down. They know what it takes. You have a lot of championship experience. Look, Zach, stop trying to find holes and find things that's wrong with the Lakers instead of just saying, listen, I know they have an old squad, but they have a lot of talent on this team. They have a lot of depth, and they have fixed these holes that you're trying to talk about.
Depth, I don't know, but talent, yes.
And look, you now have in one place, I just want to put this